Hey there, my friend. If you are new here, welcome. And if you are not, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ellen. I am a burnout and stress management coach. And we are going to be talking about something today that I'm sure we all think about when it comes to burnout and stress. We are going to be talking about the 40-hour work week. In particular, why it's dying and why it should be. This is going to be one of those videos that if you are a decision maker in your organization, if you are a leader in your organization, I hope to give you a little bit of insight, a little bit of data, a little bit of evidence as to why we should make this switch away from the 40-hour work week and why it was never designed for the way we work anyway. I'm going to start in this with a little bit of a history lesson about where the 40-hour work week came from. It has actually been something that people have been fighting for or had been fighting for since the late 1800s. And if you think about that, if you put that into context in terms of history, the 40-hour work week was something that originated during the Industrial Revolution, because back in the day, people who worked in factories were being asked to work like 80, 100-hour weeks, and they were lobbying for better working conditions, not only in the factories they worked in, but the work they were being expected to do. The 40-hour work week was created to address that need. And actually, the first time it was proposed, it was rejected. The first time Congress proposed it, it did not pass, it did not get rejected. It did not get approved. So it's not the first time in history that people have proposed something that has not been accepted. And actually, it did pass at one point in time, and I think it was Illinois. But the organizations that were based in Illinois actually fought against it. So there's a long track record of people wanting to make, changes to how we work and organizations resisting it. It finally started gaining traction though around the Great Depression. And it was actually something that originated from the fact that unemployment was so high that they were like, okay, how can we help address this? And essentially what they proposed is if we cut down on the work week that we're asking these factory workers to work, then I'm so sorry if you guys can hear the slamming. They're working on the apartment next to mine, and the people who are working on it, don't seem to understand how loud the door slamming is. It rattles my whole apartment. So I'm sorry if you can hear that. But it first started gaining traction around the Great Depression because unemployment was so high that they started to realize they needed to make a change so that they could employ more workers. And the change that they proposed was to decrease the work week. But even then, it really didn't start to gain traction until Henry Ford. Henry Ford was doing his own private studies, and he started to realize that there were only small gains to making his employees work longer. There were only small gains in productivity, and those gains were lost very, very quickly. They didn't last very long. So he actually came to realize by doing his own little kind of studies and assessments that his people actually worked better, had better employee satisfaction, all sorts of things if he decreased their work week down to 40 hours. This actually also became a massive recruiting tool for the Ford company because everybody else was making their factory workers work 60 or 80-hour weeks. And here was Henry Ford saying, hey, come to my factory, I'll pay you the same, but I'll only make you work 40 hours a week. It was a massive recruiting tool, and he was the first person to do it. But that was in the 1920s. It wasn't until the 1940s that it actually became legislation. So that's a quick little couple-minute recap on the history of the 40-hour work week and why it came to be. But you'll notice in that story, when I tell that story, I am talking about factory workers. I am talking about people who are doing physical labor. And though some of us still do physical labor as a part of our job, a lot of us, especially those of us who are experiencing burnout, we are doing knowledge work. We are doing mental labor, not so much physical labor. And this is a big reason why the 40-hour work week just does not work for the day and age that we are in, when so many of us are knowledge workers. This is the information age, and the 40-hour work week just doesn't work for that and is kind of dying out because we're slowly starting to realize that. Mental work is completely different than physical work, and arguably you could say it's more exhausting. I would argue, though, that's a different kind of exhaustion, the exhaustion we feel when we're doing physical work. If you think about it, the ways in which we recharge at the end of the day are very appropriate for physical work. You might get some food, plop down on the couch in front of the TV, and just kind of let yourself physically recover. That is actually great recovery if you do physical work. But when you do mental work, that's actually not great recovery. We need completely different forms of rest that we're frankly not used to engaging in to recover from doing mental work, to recover from doing the kind of mentally stimulating work we do in the information age. Most of us are not equipped and don't really understand how to do that kind of work. I did link a blog post down below if that's something you are interested in learning about. I wrote a blog a while ago called Why You're Always Exhausted, which details some of the different types of rest and some of the different forms rest can take. But we often need different rest if we do mental work, if we do knowledge work. But the other big component of it is that we're not stopping. That's the other tricky thing when it comes to mental work. If you do physical work, whether you're at a work site or you do work in a factory or you are working in a shop, you cannot physically take that work home with you. When you leave at the end of the day, your work stays back at whatever your site is. When you're doing mental work, it's a lot easier to take your work home. Not only that, but we often end up ruminating on our work even when we don't want to. You might be subconsciously solving a problem that you're mentally trying to leave at work, and yet you're still ruminating on it. You're still thinking about it. So that's one of the other big tricks and the big caveats when it comes to mental work is we're not so readily able to just leave work at work. It comes with us in our brains. And now we have a dog barking. Did he stop? I can't win with the background noise today, guys. It's I have a good mic, but it also picks everything up. But this is the big reason why knowledge work, the 40-hour week needs to change for knowledge workers, because productivity skyrockets when you spend less time working, but it's so hard for us to do that. We need to be rested. We need to be refreshed so that we can get the most done and we can be at our best creatively and intellectually, but that's often so hard for us to do. So let's take a look at some big reasons why the 40-hour work week needs to end. We know with absolute certainty that working more than 40 hours a week, like people who are constantly working overtime or constantly just overworking themselves, that there are some extremely detrimental effects to that. We know that. You're more likely to make mistakes. You're less healthy, you're less productive. We know all of those things when you work more than 40 hours. And I will totally agree and contend that there are fewer studies for people who are working less than 40 hours a week. But the big reason for that is because we have less people doing that. Most of us are working too much, not too little. So we have a lot less information to draw from when it comes to doing studies on people who are working less. The other really interesting thing, though, is that I saw one study, and I've got all of this linked in a companion blog in the description below. I saw one study that says most workers work on average 7 additional hours every single week. This has actually become such a problem in Europe that places in France, for example, the French government actually legislated that companies and bosses are not allowed to contact their employees in certain off hours. They're literally legislating, hey, leave your people the fuck alone. They're literally legislating, leave your people the hell alone in Europe to make sure that there's more of a separation. So we are naturally just working more, and that's why we need to make some of these systemic changes to cut down on the hours that we're working. Some of the biggest arguments I found for ending the 40-hour week are, first and foremost, working less time forces us to be more creative and more effective with our time. I read a great book called Shorter, I think that's what it was called, that I will go ahead and link in the description below, where they talked about all of the different ways people had to kind of experiment with new automations, new systems, different ways of doing things that ultimately made them be more efficient. And those were changes that they wouldn't have made if they weren't challenged to work less time. So that's one of the big bonuses is we could be more efficient, but we don't need to be because we're working 40 hours a week. If we decrease the time people are working to say a 25-hour week or a 30-hour week, they might start to experiment and learn some of these new efficiencies that would help them to get more done in less time. Working less also sharpens our focus. I saw one study that said, actually it was by the author that wrote that book, that Shorter book. He said that people aren't able to focus intensely for more than 5 hours per day. So even though we're working for 8 hours, you're probably not getting a full 8 hours of work out of us anyway. We're only actually being productive and effective for 5 of those hours. So why not shorten the work week so that we're only giving you those 5 hours every single day? The other thing that I saw that was very interesting is actually the most productive companies in the world, the most productive countries in the world are not the ones that are working the most. The most productive country in the world is actually Luxembourg, and they average 28 hours of work a week for their workers. So you see, hours in does not always equate to more productivity. That's something we've got to get out of our head. For companies, you're also saving on healthcare related costs, which can be in the hundreds of millions of dollars every year for burnout related health concerns, but also for things that are related to burnout and turnover. I saw somewhere that said something like $4.6 billion in costs that are associated with employees that burn out because they're overworked. So if we cut down on our work week, we're saving all of that money that we can actually pour into getting better employees, being able to pay better, more competitive salaries, or to have more revenue in our organizations. Win-win. In my opinion, one of the other big advantages is I feel like it nixes perfectionism. Now, this is definitely not going to be something that happens like immediately upon making the switch, but I think over time, when you have less time to work on something, you start to realize more and more that done is better than perfect, and that you have to get so much done, so you can't sit there fixing all of the little perfectionistic details in something like you otherwise would if you were working a 40-hour work week. I actually think one of the best things for my perfectionism is when my business started to take off, I had more to do, and I had less time to do it because I had more things that were required of me as my business got bigger and bigger and bigger. I have recovered from perfectionism. I'm recovering. I won't say I'm fully recovered, but I have recovered for the most part from perfectionism because I just didn't have the time to be a perfectionist anymore. I had to let it go. Otherwise, I truly would be working all the time, and I sure as hell didn't want that. It also helps with employee engagement. One of my favorite studies that I saw is a study that Gallup did where they actually found that employee engagement peaked for the first time since they had started studying it in 2000. It peaked during the pandemic. Literally, for the first time in 20 years, employee engagement in companies peaked. And a big reason for that is they were working less, they were commuting less, and they had more time for hobbies and outside activities. So that's another perk of nixing the 40-hour work week is your employee engagement is going to go up. It also gives people permission to disconnect. I think one of the big reasons why vacations don't do it is because when people are out on vacation or taking time off for the holidays, if other people are still working in your organization or there's still Slack messages going off or email notifications coming in, people feel like they don't have permission to disconnect. One of the most effective things that I've seen companies do is when you take an all-company break. LinkedIn does something like this, and I heard great feedback from both the managers and the employees and team members that I talked to about the benefits of that all-company time off. Is everybody felt like it was now okay for them to take a break because the entire company was doing so. That's another shift that we can make in our actual work day. If the entire company is only working for 5 hours a day, then when people leave at the end of the day, they feel like they have more permission to do so because the entire company is operating like that. Last but not least, it gives achievers space to find out who they are or experiment with activities so that they have something in their lives that isn't about their work. I find that with a lot of high achievers, the big reason why they work all the time and the reason why they don't disconnect very much is because they don't know who they are outside of their work. I actually had someone in my membership say to me yesterday in a self-care session I was running that she felt like, she had this time that she was going to dedicate to herself, but she kept coming up with all of these activities that she should do. She should put the Christmas lights on her tree. She should organize her desk and clean that drawer. She should take out the trash. But then I finally asked her, I was like, okay, those are all things that you should do, but what's something that actually just feels amazing and like it would be incredibly, incredibly rejuvenating and like it would fill your cup for you to do? Like, what is something that if I gave you an hour, you're like, it sounds glorious to do this? And she really struggled to come up with things. That is what a lot of high achievers experience, is once you take away the shoulds, once you take away the work responsibilities, they don't actually know how to spend their time. But if we mandate shorter work days, if we legislate that we're going to have shorter work days, that is one of the things that we can start to develop, is we start to develop people that are more multifaceted. If we give achievers that space and that break to figure out who the hell they are outside of their work, which a lot of us struggle with. These are a lot of the reasons why I think the 40-hour work week is dying, and I think that we're slowly wising up to the fact that working 40 hours a week is not the best way to work. But before I wrap this up, I've got one final note for my entrepreneurs. If you are an entrepreneur or a business owner, you may have joked, because I certainly have, that you have traded your 9-to-5 for a 24/7 gig. And it makes a lot of sense, but for a lot of us as business owners, that length of time that we're working week to week is self-imposed. Not because you want to work that much, but because of the fact that it's coming from a place of fear and scarcity. Most of us have working styles that come from the mindset of, but I need to work to make money. Only I can do it. Slowing down will make me lose my edge. I get that. I get all of that. But if you impose some limitations on your workday or how much you are allowing yourself to work, you're going to see some of the same benefits that corporate workers are going to see. You'll find that it not only forces you to get more creative about the systems that you're using, perhaps implementing more automations that will not only help you, but help your team, but it also forces you to get more creative with your passive income stream. If you are an entrepreneur or business owner who hasn't put in some form of passive income in place in your business isn't sustainable. If all you're doing is trading time for money, you are going to burn out, or you're going to hit a cap in your business that you're not going to be able to overcome. And as we know, with inflation constantly increasing, that is not sustainable either. Similarly, if the idea of working less still terrifies you, I would ask if there's something financially that you can change in your business. Could you raise your rates for custom and one-on-one work? Because you probably should. This is something that basically every business owner I've ever talked to knows that they need to do, but they're scared to do. Because what if they don't buy? What if this? What is that? I can tell you as a business owner that for every person who's told me my rate is too high and that I'm charging too much, there's simultaneously been a person that says, oh yeah, that's fine, and they pay in full right from the get-go. So yeah, your rates might be high for some people, but they're going to be completely fine and like no problem for another person. So is there a way that you can adjust your rates to make the money that's coming in when you're doing that more mentally intensive and time intensive work more beneficial for you? Simultaneously, is there something that you can shift in your expenses? Are there things that you're not paying for, or things that you could automate in your business so that you don't need that extra VA or whatever it might be? Are there places that you can make shifts financially in your business so the idea of working less doesn't feel so scary and so impactful? In a nutshell, the 40-hour work week is dying, as it should. It's not dead yet. I see a lot of people out there say the 40-hour work week is dead. It's not dead. If it were, so many of us wouldn't be chained to our desks day in and day out. So it's certainly not dead, but I do believe that the 40-hour work week is dying, and it should be. Now we just need to figure out how we as corporations and as entrepreneurs can start to better adopt it. So those are some of my thoughts on the 40-hour work week. If you are interested in hearing some ways in which you can adopt a shorter work week, both as a business owner or as a corporation, let me know. I can always record another video, write another blog, record another podcast, whatever, to address that. But if that's something you are interested in hearing more about, go ahead and drop a comment below. If you agree, if you have anything to add, go ahead and drop a comment below as well. But with that, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. If you are liking what you're hearing on this channel or you want to hear more about this, go ahead and hit that subscribe button or that like button below. And with that, I will talk to you next time. Bye.